Hey listeners, this is Jason Crockett, and I just wanted to give a quick stop in between episodes to say thanks for listening so far, and also give you a heads up at what you're about to hear in the next few episodes. This year with Honors has been the fledgling podcast for my Honors 10 class, and it's been a reminiscent look at conversations I got to have with kids throughout the year. I'm especially lucky to get to be able to teach a year-long honors class because I've watched these kids grow year after year, and they grow so much in a calendar year. They come to you as kids fresh out of their freshman year, and by the end of the year, ready to go on to their junior year, you've watched them physically mature, emotionally mature, intellectually mature, and you've grown so much closer with these kids. And I've always enjoyed getting to the end of the year in a bittersweet kind of way where I get to look back at the things that they've written for me about our experiences. It always used to be in the yearbook that you would get them to write longer messages to you that would hopefully be something meaningful and not just hags. And they would get to talk about the things that they learned with you, the good times. That expanded into them sometimes writing me letters or keeping a journal that they would write in throughout the year. And that would allow me to chronicle our time, their voices together. And now I'm getting to accrue actual voice conversations with these kids, building a kind of oral history in which I can listen back to their experiences, their good times, their bad times, over and over and over for years to come. Even after they've long left the classroom and gone on to graduate, I'll still be able to go back and listen to these on my ride to work or on the days that I'm mowing or anything, and still will get to have those voices with them. It reminds me of when my own son was really young and we had him sing Jingle Bells to us. And then years later, I found that voice recording on my computer, and getting to hit the play button brought that little kid back singing his Jingle Bells song. Well, getting this podcast is not only letting the kids take mastery for their own conversations, but it's letting them record and chronicle our times together and getting to have a long-term memory of those times, of those voices. This week, we're adding a double episode. We're going to try to get through more episodes each week as the kids continue to make them. But one of the special episodes that's coming up this week is honestly one of my favorite moments of teaching from this entire year. We're getting to do a crossover episode with our friend and coworker, Mr. Drew Haston. Coach Haston teaches freshman English and journalism here at the high school. Coach Haston also comes to us from a background in journalism. And he, in his own private time, had some podcasts with his nephew and his brother and his own high school friends. It led to him being sparked with the idea of having his own podcast for a specific purpose. He has this collection of books that matter very much to him, where he's chased down hardback copies of this or the entire cover collection of James Bond set for this. And it hit him that, one day, as we all will eventually do, he'll pass on and his kids will inherit these books. For a lot of people, when you inherit your parents' treasure, sometimes it's your trash, thinking, why did this matter so much to my dad or my mom? And he wanted his kids to inherit more than just a set of books. He wanted his kids to remember why those things were important to him as a teacher, as a father, as a reader. He thought, I should sit down and record for each one of these my thinking for that. But it would also be a chance for him to explore his thoughts and his teaching style and his ruminations about the writer and the craft and the material of the book. More than just, hey kids, here's why it's important. But like it reminded me of my own family, having recorded a family get-together one time, it would mean more than that because here's your dad's voice when he was X age, and you'll always have that of your dad speaking to you long after he's gone. So Coach Haston started his podcast called A Deadman's Books, and weekly he sits down to record about a book that he's just finished reading or one that was sitting in his collection. And he extended the offer to me this past fall of, hey, why don't you come be on my show and we'll talk about this book that we read together. Coach Haston and Coach Aaron, one of our principals, and I have been reading together for several years now. It started with Cold Mountain by Charles Frazier and has extended into other books in what we jokingly called our Man Book Club. But it's also brought our friendship together, not just as readers, but as guys, as people with a shared Upper Cumberland experience. We get to sit and talk about books. We get to sit and talk about, dad life. We get to sit and talk about a lot of things together. And I'm going to tell you, those conversations about story, about writing, about why books matter, have honestly become one of the favorite parts of my work week. They remind me of being a kid again when my friend Matt and I would have sleepovers at each other's house and bring our mini handheld recorders, and we would record little radio episodes of our own show called Secret Origins. Well, with that, we would stay up late into the night cackling about stories we made up, but the same feeling is here. That connection, joy, meaningfulness, except now Coach Haston and I are a little bit older, a little bit more dadly now. Getting to be on his show not only sparked my attention for the books that we're reading, but also the content that I'm teaching in my class. And in just our simple chit chat, I floated the idea of how great would this be if we got to do a similar kind of project with our students? What if in my honors class, I bought the materials and we did our own podcast? And it's one thing to be able to teach how to write the essays for your book analysis or other argumentative topics. But what if they also had to take mastery for having conversations about those? Those same conversations would be a way for me to chronicle our experiences together and have those voices for the kids that meant so much to me all along the way. And thus was born the idea for having our class podcast with honors. Well, this week, Coach Haston and I are going to be doing a crossover episode together where we get to talk about the Great Gatsby. And his idea was, wouldn't it be great if we could bring this into the classroom and model not just podcasting, but Socratic discussions, meaningful book talk for the kids? And it would supplant a day of lecture by modeling that lecture, modeling that book talk and the big picture discussions. And that would open up the gateway for my class to spend the next couple of weeks having more focused conversations and assignments about the Great Gatsby. We set up our microphones, we turned on the recorders, we had our table and chairs set up front row, and we recorded a double crossover podcast live in front of a studio audience. And we talked about everything from baseball to the American dream to marriage and the failure of some of these goals, to parties and honesty and what the green light means or doesn't mean, what colors matter or don't matter. It was, no exaggeration, one of the coolest and most meaningful days I've had this semester. So when you hit play on the next episode of With Honors, know that you're about to hear something different. If you like what you hear, please go give a Deadman's Books a follow on Spotify. Coach Haston's voice, his perspective, our conversations, they're all well worth your time. Again, thanks for listening to our show and for supporting With Honors. It really means a lot to know that these kids and the work that they've been doing matter to more than just me, that they matter to their parents, they matter to themselves, they matter to their friends, they matter to an audience they may or may not ever see. It makes a space for this kind of conversation that reminds us all why we do this work in the first place. And just one more thing before we wrap up this bumper. It is that time of year, the one all teachers know way too well, testing season. It's hectic schedules, shifting bell times, makeup exams, last-minute reviews, a little bit of that controlled chaos energy in the air when everybody's on their best behavior and everybody's in their best mood. But even with that all going on, the plan for With Honors is full steam ahead. We're going to keep recording as many episodes as we can, catching real conversations with the students as they reflect, remember, and just talk it out. We'll be hearing episodes from Solomon and Hunter about communist indoctrination, censorship, and Fahrenheit 451, which surprisingly turned out to be one of the funniest episodes I've ever sat through. And we've got an episode from Alondra, who asked Coach Haston to return as her co-host since he was her freshman English teacher. And that one was pure comfort to record. It's one of the most casual, intelligent, and easy to produce recordings we've done yet. There's just something about talking with people that you already trust, who've been a part of your journey. And the coffee that morning definitely added a little pep to our chit-chat and laughter. We've still got a good chunk of episodes to come, and every single one of them will be the same kind of resonance and heart for me as the very first ones. This whole year has been a process of discovery, figuring out what works and what doesn't, what kind of sound we want for ourselves, what kind of product we want to put into the air. But I'll tell you, it matters to me a whole lot. This podcast, this classroom, these voices, they matter. and so does your listenership. The goal is to drop multiple episodes each week as we head toward the end of the school year. We want to wrap this season with intention and with a full set of voices recorded before summer break hits. And beyond that, we've been reaching out to some former students who are now a little older, a little wiser, to come back and reflect on the time they spent here too, how it mattered to them, where they've gone since, what they remember. Coach Haston and I have been knocking around the idea of doing a few bonus episodes over the summer, some laid-back, barbecue-eating, book-loving book talks to tide us over till August. And then, when August hits, Season 2. We'll be back with some new music, I think, some new students, new conversations, new faces, a whole new chapter in what's already becoming something really special. We started this thing just hoping to give kids a chance to voice their own experiences and record memories that they and I would want to remember. And now here we are with a growing archive of story moments that I'll be grateful to replay for years. So thank you to our listeners, our students, our families, our coworkers, every one of you who's taken time to listen to this. If you're stuck with us this far, we're just getting started. So see you next episode, and thanks.